All right. So, how is everyone? Just like put, I guess, reactions in the chat. All right. So today we'll be doing English, more English and grammar. So yeah, let's just start. So what is the SAT science passage? So there's usually only like one SAT science passage in the reading section. And science passages are usually about a certain animal, plant, natural phenomenon, or like other scientific, I guess, concepts. One sec, I'm gonna send the presentation to the people who just asked. All right, I will send the links to their previous classes recordings as well. This is today's presentation. And this is the link where you guys can get all the recordings. I'm pretty sure I sent the right one. Yep. Oh, wait. Okay. Then I shared the wrong one. 1 second. Share. Copy link. All right. This one should work. There. You guys should be able to access it now. All right. So yeah, going back to what I was saying before. So yeah, there's usually just one science passage in the reading, although the paired passage may contain the science passage instead. So science passages are usually about like a certain animal, plant, natural phenomenon, or other scientific concepts. This could be something about space, or it could be about dirt on an island somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So some tips to read, I guess I meant to write science passages effectively. Summarize information. So like similar to other types of passages, I was just like making notes after each paragraph. So you don't have to look at the passage too much again. Pay attention to the graphs, tables, and charts. Science passages usually have like a corresponding graphs, table, or a chart at the end of it. And they usually relate to what's like said in the passage itself. And just take note of what's being presented. Just like try to understand that information in context of the passage. Say the passage is about penguin populations and the graph is about the rise in penguin population over the years. Just think of the graph as like something that's related to whatever you just read. So look at the organization of the passage. So for science passages, you could be asked about the organization. And like just after you finish reading the passage, just write down the structure of the passage. It could be like first they did the hypothesis and then they did a trial and then they talked about the results. Or it could be that they talked about a different, study and then they talked about how it influenced their study and just like what the effect of their study is and stuff like that. So to the person who just asked, you still need access to view the presentation. The second link should give you access. The first link does not. And just like try not to use prior knowledge. Like you could know stuff from outside that is a potential answer. Say like you know something about space and that is in that answer choice. However, you're supposed to only get your answer from stuff you learned in the passage. So even if you know like an answer choice is true, it's not necessarily the answer that the SAT wants, simply because they mention in the passage. Right? For the people who just asked for the link again. And yeah, so don't bring in your outside knowledge because the answers to the different questions will not be whatever you learned outside of school, I guess. So for the person who asked, are you allowed to write in the question book? No. Well, yes, you're allowed to write in the questions book, I guess, / test itself. You cannot write on the answer bubble sheet. And no, we'll be learning English today. All right. So some general grammar rules for the writing section. Each word should make sense in a context. So the SAT writing section employs word choice that will like challenge your understanding of things like homophones, which are words that like sound similar and have different meanings. There, and like words with multiple definitions. you can use like a word in different situations and it mean different things. So you will not have to memorize anything for the writing section in both the ACT and the SAT. The only thing you will need to know are, I guess, some general grammar rules and just how to read a passage effectively. So for the person who said, what's the difference between ITS and IT apostrophe S? ITS, IT apostrophe S, it's a contraction for it is, while ITS is like a possessive, it indicates possession of something. So examples of, I guess, homophones. There are a number of dogs without their collar. That is not correct, because there does not indicate that the dogs possess the collars. The correct version of this would be there are a number of dogs without their collars, THEIR, because that indicates that the dogs possess the collars versus this, which does not tell that the dogs have the collars. This does. So another incorrect, I guess, example of stuff that should make sense in context. Although fitness advocates preserve that the supplement is beneficial, the FDA has yet to release positive results. So preserve does not work in this case simply because the meaning of preserve is to, I guess, like not. So preserve is like when you preserve like an item or you freeze an item to like keep it the same. You don't preserve an idea, you maintain an idea. Although fitness advocates maintain that the supplement is beneficial, the FDA has yet to release positive results. So basically maintain basically means you maintain an idea. You do not preserve an idea. Commas separate main and subordinate clauses. So this is a section I particularly struggled when I was doing them, simply because comma splices were the number one thing that I got wrong in the writing section. So a sentence contains of a subject and a predicate. Put more simply, it's a noun and a verb phrase. The SAT writing section wants to challenge your knowledge of like what constitutes a sentence by using something called a comma splice. This occurs when like two grammatically correct sentences are combined with just a comma. So this means like you can split the two sections, I guess, into two different sentences and they'll still make sense. For example, incorrect. Pandas are my favorite animals, comma, they are so cute. So you can turn this sentence into two different sentences. Pandas are cute, are my favorite animal. And they are so cute. You could just replace this with a period and it would still be two complete sentences. The correct version of this would be pandas are my favorite animal, period, they're so cute. You can replace the comma with a period, and if they still make sense, that means they are two independent clauses, I guess. Another option would be to put a semicolon. What a semicolon does is you have two complete sentences, which are called independent clauses, and a semicolon allows you to put two independent clauses together. A comma is only used when you have an independent clause and a dependent clause. A dependent clause cannot exist by itself, an independent clause can exist by itself. All right. So general grammar rules continued, I guess. So follow sentence rules to avoid run-ons and fragments. For a sentence to be complete, it must have at least one main clause, a subject and its predicate, and all the main clauses must be connected with proper punctuation. As seen in the previous rule, which we just went over, comma splices and such, this means that the main clauses must be connected by semicolons or with like coordinating conjunctions and commas. Similarly, a sentence is a fragment if there's no main clause. So an example of a run-on sentence. My wife comes from the city and I come from the suburbs. This doesn't have any, I guess, punctuation to split these two sentences, I guess, these two clauses. So an example of a fragment, my wife comes from the city and I from the suburbs. So there is no real main clause for this. There's like no, first of all, I'm not really sure how to explain this, but like there's still just no good punctuation in the middle of it. And this sentence is just grammatically incorrect. The correct version of this, my wife comes from the city, comma, and I come from the suburbs. This is correct because the comma here as well as the conjunction here, make this sentence grammatically correct because they combine the two different clauses. Without either of them, this sentence would be incorrect. Verbs and sentence structure must remain parallel. So to ensure a sentence is grammatically correct, all verb tenses and grammatical structures must remain parallel. This means like basically all words must be repeated in like the same, I guess, tense to maintain a pattern. So an incorrect example. John wanted to buy a new car, partly because of his need to have a reliable vehicle, but mostly because of his great desiring to look cool. The correct version of this, first of all, this is wrong because desiring is different from the fact that they use the word need here. The correct version of this would be because of his great desire to look cool, because it matches with need. All right. So along with word structure, verb tenses must also remain constant throughout the sentence. This basically means you can't say in like part of the sentence, you can't say you're running and then you just say you walk. You can't. So an example of this would be John loved running with his friends, swimming in the ocean, and walk through the park. This doesn't work because both the words running and swimming have the word ing in them, and it's like an action. This walk just doesn't make sense because the other two are phrased differently. The correct version of this would be John loved running with his friends, swimming in the ocean, and walking through the valley. This is correct because all three of them have the same, I guess, the verb tense is the same. Running, swimming, and walking all have the same verb tense. Okay. So one more grammar rule, and then I'll answer questions. Correlative conjunctions means there's two parts. So one of the most common and like probably the easiest error types to identify is the use of a coordinator without its matching word. So examples of this would be or and not so much and as. See, if you just have not so much, he's not so much funny, and you just don't have this, the sentence doesn't make sense because you're implying there's something else that's happening. Same with just as and so. If you have a sentence say, he is just as funny as just as funny as that guy. He's just as funny as that guy. So he does this. This makes sense. If you just have just as, it doesn't really make as much sense. Not only, but. So a sentence example of this would be not only does he run, but he swims as well. If you just take out the but he swims, not only does he run, but you're also implying that there's something else that he can do, but you just don't have anything else. You can identify that's an error if you don't have, I guess, the but or an also. At once, and it's the same thing as the previous two. With only one of them, it doesn't make as much sense. It's only at once, and it doesn't make as much sense without the word and. All right, any questions about what I just went over? So for the person who asked, what is a fragment? So a fragment is basically when there's no like main clause, where like the main, I guess, point of the sentence isn't really made. My wife coming from the city and I from the suburbs. Nowhere does it say. So first of all, my wife comes from the city would be the main clause. But in this case, it says my wife coming from the city, which isn't a main clause because I'm not entirely sure why, but like there's no main clause in that sentence. All right, any other questions? Just raise your hand or I guess put it in the chat. Also, the person who has does sine and cosine have to do anything with this? No, this is English. Sine and cosine are only for math. Pranav?
So can you go to the previous slide?
Hello?
Can you go to the previous slide?
All right.
So can you, do you have an example for at once, ... and?
Nothing I can think of. I will get back to you on that next class if you want me to. I
Okay.
can't think of one on the spot right now.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have a question? So for the person who asks, is the SAT online or is it on paper? So it's on paper currently, but I'm aware of the fact that like they are planning to change it. Like tests have already run for the SAT being online. I'm just not sure when it'll be released, but currently it should be on paper still. Right, no other questions? I guess we'll get to practice problems. So first we'll do a reading science passage. I'll give you guys a little bit to do this. I'll give you guys a link for the passage. And yeah, I'll give you guys around like 10 minutes to just read the passage and then just raise your hand after you're done. And after we get enough people, I'll do the passage as well. And of course, you guys can just ask me questions while we're waiting. And just a reminder, just raise your hand after you're done reading it and I'll go over it. Again, to the people who just messaged me that they finished, just raise your hand so like I can tell how many people there are. I cannot count. Counting the people who said done will take a lot longer than me looking at the screen and telling me how many people raised their hand. You guys can, the people who are done can proceed to the questions. However, I will go over the passage itself. You guys can do either one of them. You can wait for me, or you guys can go to the questions. Again, as a reminder, the people who didn't hear me before, just raise your hand after you're done reading the passage. We'll wait another 2-3 minutes longer, and then I'll start doing it. All right, one more minute, and then I'll do it. All right, I'll do the passage now. So, all right. So sunspots are relatively cool areas on the surface of the sun, formed by the changes in the sun's magnetic field. The sun's surface is very hot, approximately 10,000 Fahrenheit, while the center of a sunspot is comparatively cool to about 6,000 Fahrenheit. Scientists do not know exactly what causes sunspots, but the magnetic field within the sunspot is 100 times stronger than it is on the rest of the sun's surface. Normally, hot gases flow from the interior of the sun to the surface, maintaining the high temperature. While within a sunspot, however, the concentrated magnetic field inhibits the movement of the gases, causing the surface of the sunspot to cool. You guys can lower your hand. I started it. All right, so what we know from this. So sunspots are colder than the rest of the sun. Colder than rest of sun. And magnetic field is stronger there. Magnetic field, F-I-E-L-D, is stronger there. All right. Galileo and other astronomers started recording the sunspots they viewed through telescopes in the early 1600s. Although sunspots have been observed and recorded without telescopes for over 2,000 years, when another astronomer, Samuel Schwabe, it's fine, you guys don't need to remember the exact pronunciation of that word, the name, plotted the number of sunspots recorded each year, he found that the number increased and decreased in a cyclic pattern. Approximately every 11 years, the number of sunspots reaches a maximum. A graph of sunspots over the years has a fairly regular patterns of peaks and valleys, with about 11 years between peaks. Most recently, the sunspot cycle peaked around the middle of 2013 and will reach its nadir during around 2020. So first of all, this word isn't, I guess, common to know, but we can assume from the rest of the, the context of it, that this is a peak. Nadir means peak or something similar to it. Peak. And anyways, so what we learned in this paragraph was sunspots cycle every 11 years. Sunspots cycle every 11 years. And people looked at them with telescopes, starting in 1600s, and without telescopes, 2,000 years ago. All right, so I'm going to clear that, and we're going to continue. So scientists use the 11-year cycle to predict solar flares, which cause changes in the Earth's atmosphere. Atmosphere. When two or more sunspots have magnetic fields with opposite directions. When two or more sunspots having magnetic fields with opposite directions are near each other, the magnetic fields can interact with plasma on the surface between sunspots. The interaction between fields sends a burst of plasma away from the surface, forming a solar flare. The flares quickly heat to several million degrees and release as much energy as several 100 million atomic bombs. Strong magnetic fields and X-rays travel from the flares to Earth, resulting in geomagnetic storms. If these storms are strong enough, they have the potential to disrupt power and radio communications on Earth. Satellites are particularly susceptible to disruption by solar flares, thus causing interference with GPS, weather prediction, and mobile phone communication. A positive effect of these storms is that the increased energy and plasma particles interact with Earth's atmosphere, enhancing the auroras, known as the northern and southern lights. So, what we can tell is the use of tracking sunspots is to predict solar flares. And solar flares equal bad. But also enhance auroras. All right. Sunspots do not always follow the 11-year solar cycle. There was almost no sunspot activity between 1645 and 1715. This minimum, which was named the Maunder minimum after the husband and wife team, who discovered patterns in the location of sunspots during the 11-year solar cycle, occurred during a period of lower than normal global temperatures known as the Little Ice Age. Scientists mostly agree that the lack of sunspot activity did not contribute very much, if at all, to lower temperatures. So this paragraph basically says no sunspot activity between 1645 and 1715, and is named after husband-wife team. Happened during Ice Age, but no correlation. Sunspot activity has been decreasing during the last few cycles, and it's possible we will see another minimum in the next 20 years. The strength of the magnetic fields in the sunspot also seems to be diminishing, which could be a sign of another sign of a minimum in our future. If we do experience a minimum, scientists will be able to learn more about the effects of sunspots in Earth's climate, in addition to learning more about the sun, its surface, and its magnetic fields. So prediction. So there's a prediction happened. Prediction happened. Possible minimum in 20 years. And tells benefits. All right, I spelled benefits wrong, but whatever. Benefits. All right. Now we look at the graphs. So basically this graph tells us the solar cycles and number of sunspots versus what year it is. This is the minimum, and this is just average number of sunspots overall. All right, question 1. The central idea of the passage is primarily concerned with how solar activity can affect the climate on Earth. No, it's just like the passage mostly talks about how sunspots, what sunspots are, and what they do. So not really climate. The only time it mentions climate is like in the last paragraph where it says the lack of sunspots might be able to help us about their effects on the climate on Earth. So that is not the central idea. It is a idea, but not the central idea. The history of methods used by astronomers to study the sun. Again, this was mentioned in the passage. However, it was 2 lines, and that would not be the main idea either. Scientists, our current understanding of sunspots and the solar flares. That sounds like a good answer. We're talking about solar flares and all. The 11-year cycle of solar flare activity. Well, not really, no. It just says there is an 11-year cycle of solar flare activity, but it doesn't just talk about that only. Therefore, it's not the main idea. Again, it's a side idea. Therefore, the answer is C. All right, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? So let's look at this. Line 5 to 10 is where, okay, so lines 5 to 10, it's in the first paragraph, and we said it's just like what sunspots are and what scientists know about it. So lines 5 to 10, this is scientists do not know. Okay, so basically what scientists know. That's a good answer considering that what the answer that we chose was related to what scientists know. So we can put that as a star. Possible answer. 14 to 17. 1 second. 14 to 17 is right here. This is I guess the different ways people looked at sunspots. So this question is really tricky. So there's no one obvious answer now. Well, there is an obvious answer since we chose C. However, if we somehow did choose, I guess, B, we would put our answer as B as well for the second question. And that would result in us getting 2 questions wrong. So you have to be careful on the questions that have, I guess, a question followed by what is the best evidence, because there's a potential to get 2 questions wrong in a row, which is really bad considering that it's 2 questions that you straight up just got wrong. Right? It's not 14 to 17. 50 to 52 are, I guess, 1 second. 50 to 52 talk about the, okay, so 50 to 52 are like the sunspots don't always follow cycle, and that is not really what we want. That's not helping our answer either. Therefore, this is not the right answer as well. And 58 to 60 is right here. 58 to 60, right on here. Basically says climate not affected. And that doesn't help our answer either. Therefore, the only answer is A. All right. Question number 3, after I select that. The author refers to the enhanced auroras resulting from solar flares mostly to. So basically, in that paragraph, from what I remember, the author basically said there's solar flares go bad, but they make auroras or something like that. Auroras. So A looks like a good answer because it says the negative effects, solar flares equals to bad, but then the positive effect as well, which is the contrast. Illustrate the power effects of solar flares on the Earth's atmosphere. The auroras doesn't illustrate the powerful effects of solar flares. It's just a good benefit of it. So B can't be right. C suggests that solar flares might cause more damage than previously believed. The auroras are supposed to be something good, therefore they don't cause damage. And D, give an example of how solar flares affect the Earth's climate. Solar flares aren't really, auroras aren't really climate stuff. They're just, they're just lights that appear in the sky through electrons and such. So D can't be the answer either. Therefore, A is our only answer. Right? 4. So which choice best describes what scientists currently understand about how solar flare activity affects the Earth? So, A, low solar flare activity can cause lower temperatures on Earth. No, this explicitly states that people say it does not. There's no real relation between solar flares and the climate. B, high solar flare activity can lead to disruptions of communication on Earth. Yes, because they're like, because it affects mobile phone communications, GPS, satellites, and such. It says that in the passage. C, low solar flare activity can cause an enhancement of the auroras on Earth. Nowhere does it say it has to be low solar flare activities. If anything, it should be the high solar flare activities that would cause an enhancement of the auroras. So C can't be the answer either. And D, high solar flare activity can lead to an increased severe weather on Earth. It's like A, but backwards. And we already established that solar flares don't affect the weather. Therefore, B is our only answer. All right, 5. Which piece of evidence would most strengthen the author's line of reasoning? So details added to paragraph 1 about how features other than sunspots. Okay, so that is not right. That doesn't affect the author's line of reasoning, which is like solar flares do a whole bunch of stuff and sunspots cause solar flares and things. Therefore, A can't be the right answer because we don't want to talk about other stuff than solar flares, sunspots, because that just disrupts, I guess, the reader's focus. Information added to paragraph 2 about how Galileo and Swabe made their observations. No, we don't need that either because that just provided some background information on how people notice sunspots. So it can't be B. Examples in paragraph 3 causing problems caused by disruption to communications caused by solar flares. So yes, that sounds like a good answer because the author's like, why research solar flares and these flares. Solar flares. So he's like, why research solar flares? He's like, because it disrupts GPS, mobile phones and such phones. So that sounds like a good answer. And examples in paragraph 5 about other periods of history where the sun exhibited a decrease in observer activity. That is also not correct because that doesn't strengthen the line of reasoning, which is we should research solar flares. Therefore, C is our only answer. All right, as used in line 34, burst most nearly means 34 sends a burst of plasma. So sends a burst of plasma. All right, so that should mean, I guess, a ray or like a bunch of plasma out into space. So maybe like an eruption, or like a ray of plasma, or like a bunch of it, something like that. So if we go down, one of these, our answer should be something similar to that. And look at that, it says eruption right here. It's not breach because a breach means that you get out of something, and it's not that you launch something somewhere else. Force, you don't. So when you launch something, that force doesn't work either. And fracture means you break. It doesn't mean you launch. Therefore, B is our only answer. All right. 7. The passage most strongly suggests which of the following statements is accurate. So although scientists have observed patterns in sunspot activity, it's not always possible to predict when sunspot activity will occur. That sounds good because as I said, the amount of sunspots don't always follow the cycle. So that looks like a good answer. Scientists would not be able to solve the mystery of what causes sunspots until technology allows astronauts to travel to the sun. Nowhere does it say that, and it doesn't suggest it either. Unless scientists find a way to control sunspot activity, radio and satellite communications will continue to be interrupted. So it doesn't suggest that either. Nor does it say that we need to control sunspot activity. The next minimum could interfere with weather predictions and cause drastic changes in the climate on Earth. No, it says that like they don't know what it will do and they want to research it. So the passage doesn't say that like it will do something. Therefore, A's are the best answer. All right, 8. Which provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Lines 18 to 21. Lines 18 to 21. So right here to here. That just talks about how Schwabe, I guess, like, so basically talks about how the cycle was found. The cycle was found, and that doesn't match our answer. So therefore, it can't be that. B, the interaction with the flare, 33 to 35. 33 to 35 is right here. This just says how flares are formed. Flares are formed. All right, how flares are formed. That is not what we wanted either. C, 50 to 51. Sunspots do not always follow the 7-year solar cycle. This is exactly what we want. This is what we said. We even stated that down in the previous question. So that is our answer. Do you guys want me to tell you why it's not B as well? Just raise your hand or put it in the chat if you want me to tell you why B is not the answer. All right, I will look at D as well because people raise their hand. 60 to 70. Oh, wait, 66 to 70. So 66 to 70. Okay, so if we do experience a minimum, so basically it just says future potential, and it doesn't really support our answer of scientists don't know when scientists don't always know when sunspots will happen. So that can't be the answer either because it just talks about future stuff versus like it's not scientists, although scientists have observed patterns, it's not going to always follow it. So 9 is, okay, so 948, enhancing most nearly means, okay, so line 48. All right, enhancing the auroras. So probably something like increasing or intensifying, or just like making them, I guess, brighter, something like that. Making them stronger, something like that. And if any of our answers match with what I said, then that will be our answer. And apparently intensifying is one of the options, but I will go over the other ones. Developing doesn't work because it just doesn't fit in that context. Developing means like you're improving something versus like you're making it strong versus like you're making it like intense or like more visible. Therefore, A can't be the answer. Enlarging, that could have been a possible answer. However, intensifying fits it more because you intensify an aurora, you don't make it larger, I guess. Improving, you're not making the aurora better, you're just making it stronger. Therefore, C can't be the answer, and D is our only answer left. Which lines from the passages are supported by the evidence in the graph? So 14 to 16. So first of all, the graph is basically like, this is the cycle, and here's evidence that the cycle exists. This is how many sunspots were in each year, I guess. So A, 14 to 16. 14 to 16 is basically, as we said before, it's basically like how we first observed sunspots. So that isn't really our answer either. That isn't our answer. B, 25 to 27. 25 to 27 most recently peaked around this. The exact question was passages supported, okay. Sunspot cycle 2013 released around 2020. Okay, so first thing we notice is this graph only goes up to around 1950-ish. 1950-ish. So therefore, anything past that is just straight up wrong. So we can rule out answer choice B. And C, they're 51 to 52. 51 to 52. Sunspots do not always follow the 11-year cycle. Yes, our graph does support that because as shown right here, there's almost no sunspot activity between those periods. So C looks like a really good answer. And D, sunspot activity to 20 years, which is 61 to 63. Sunspot activity has been decreasing during the last few cycles. And so again, this graph only goes up till 1950. And I don't think they mean 1950 is the last few cycles. Also, it was increasing in 1950. Therefore, that can't be the answer either. And therefore, the answer is C. I will turn this in. We'll see what we got. All right. Anyone want me to explain a problem? I will go back and explain a problem. Just raise your hand or I guess put it in the chat. All right. So someone wants me to explain problem number 5. So 1 second. All right. So which of the following pieces of evidence would most strengthen the author's line of reasoning? So paragraph 1 talks about what sunspots are and such, and just adding features other than sunspots doesn't strengthen the author's line of reasoning that like we need to research sunspots, solar flares because they affect us. Affect us. Therefore, A is not the answer. How astronomers and Galilei and Schwaben made their observations, that isn't going to help for why we have to research this. Examples of problems caused by disruption to communication. Oh, okay. So problems caused by disruption to communications caused by solar flares, that would be a good answer because that tells us why we need to research it, because it causes problems. And any other periods of history where the sun exhibited a decrease in observed sunspot activity, we don't need to know that either because that doesn't really tell us why we need to research it. It's just a fact that it did happen other times in history. Therefore, D can't be the answer, and C is our only answer left. So I took a long time on this one because first of all, I was explaining each of the questions. So usually on a test, on the actual SAT, I'd read this, write down my 1 sentence, I guess, summary or 2 sentence summary. and then go to the answers and just take the first one that I know would be the answer. I wouldn't go through each of the questions and just see, each of the answers and see which is the best one necessarily. I would see which one matches up with whatever I wrote up there. And that would take a lot less time because I don't have to review each and every one of these unless it's a best evidence question. The best evidence question is probably the only one you're supposed to like deeply think about every single one of the options the most. Like these questions take the longest, I guess, because you have to go back and read them. The other ones shouldn't take you very long, and you should be able to get them if you did write like a short 1-2 sentence annotation. So no, I don't do the easy questions first. I just go through one by one. And if I do encounter a question I can't figure out in any like, I guess, fast way, I do just like mark it down and skip it and go ahead to the next couple questions. But usually I just follow the order of the questions and I guess just go in whatever order they give me in. Right? Any other questions? But yeah, to summarize what I said before, usually I don't go into detail about why each answer is not the right answer. I just see whichever one's the best one according to whatever I wrote up above. And that just is, I guess, it just gives you a way to quickly answer the questions, although it does take a bit longer to do the paragraph since you're writing down a sentence after each paragraph. So I personally just don't read the questions first because it doesn't really matter. There's no way you're going to remember, oh, I have to look for this question when you're reading the passage. Like, there's no way you're going to remember that to look for this exact information when you're reading the passage because you're trying to comprehend the passage itself. And yeah, so this I guess strategy is good if you can read fast and write like a quick sentence or two summarizing pretty fast, because that will let you answer the questions as fast as possible because you just know everything. However, if you do read a bit slow, this might not be the best, I guess, option for you to do. I personally do it because I just read really fast and then I write down my, I guess, 1 to 2 sentence summary for each paragraph. It just depends on how, it just depends on what you do well in for each passage, I guess. All right, any other questions for this passage, I guess? Right, no? All right, we'll go to the slides again. All right, I'll give you guys a minute or two to do this question and then I'll do it with you guys, I guess. I'll give you guys a minute to do each question for the writing section, I guess. It shouldn't take you guys much longer than that, simply because there's a lot of writing questions and there's a limited amount of time, I guess. Of course, I meant in the actual SAT. All right. I'll give you guys another 20 seconds. All right. So, 1 sec, let me just move some stuff. All right. So, James vacillated between applying to medical school and taking A to do laboratory research. So this is a statement, I guess. It's not a question, therefore A is wrong. B is a potential answer choice because it is a statement, because periods mean statements. This isn't really something to be excited about, and it isn't something emphasized, I guess. So C can't be the right answer either. That you can't put an exclamation mark. And as I said before, this is a statement, not a question. Therefore, D can't be the answer, and B is our only answer. Any questions? Just raise your hand or put it in the chat. Either one works. Right, no questions? Next, then we'll move on. I believe that's the next question, yeah. All right, I'll give you guys another 20 seconds and then do this one as well. All right. So, according to some health-conscious activists, products filled with unhealthy ingredients, including things such as high fructose corn syrup, should be called fox foods. They should also come with a warning label. So, answer choice A. According to some health-conscious activists, products including high fructose corn syrup, because this is an unhealthy ingredient, should be called fox foods. Furthermore, they should come with a warning label. First of all, this is overly complicated, and there are probably a couple grammar mistakes in here. First thing we notice is that the fact that in products including high fructose corn syrup, because this is an unhealthy ingredient, just doesn't, I guess, like sound well. It's too complicated. Therefore, we can just rule out A for now. B, according to some health-conscious activists, products made with unhealthy ingredients such as high fructose corn syrup should be called fox foods and come with a warning label. This is really simple and it works. It has all of the, I guess, all of the stuff mentioned in this paragraph in a short and concise manner, and this would probably be our answer. According to some health-conscious activists, products should be called fox foods when containing ingredients that are unhealthy, like fructose corn syrup, and also come with a warning label. Same as A, this is far too complicated, and when it has like the words like here, and also, and stuff like that. According to some health-conscious activists, products which contain high fructose corn syrup and other unhealthy ingredients should be called fox foods. These products, in addition, should come with a warning label. First of all, this is just unnecessary. This is a lot more complicated than this one. This one is nice and concise, while this one is a bit more, I guess, complicated, and I guess just runs on, I guess. So therefore, our answer is B. Any questions? Just raise your hand or put it in the chat. No? All right. All right, I'll give you guys a minute to do this one as well. So for the previous question, so I mean, in this case, the word like here is simply just unnecessary, unhealthy, such as, or something. This, so right here for B is just completely concise, while C just is, I guess, just organizes them in a different way, in weird ways. When containing product ingredients like that are unhealthy, like fructose corn syrup, and also come with a warning label, this just sounds complicated, and B is, I guess, just like a less complicated option of it. Like the word like itself, I just highlighted that because it just made them a thing more like, I guess, it was convoluted. That's the word I was searching for. A, C, and D were all convoluted, while B was more straight to the point. I probably shouldn't have highlighted the word like. However, I was just trying to prove my point that the other answers were convoluted. All right, I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to do this one. All right. So for this question, in Cherokee Nation, one sec. In Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court avoided hearing the case by arguing the Cherokee belonged to a domestic dependent nation, not a sovereign one. As a domestic dependent nation, they have no legal right to sue. So, answer choice A. In Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court avoided hearing the case by arguing that Cherokee Nation was not a sovereign nation which could sue a state government, but was instead a domestic dependent nation, therefore could not bring a suit. So first of all, this just repeats that it can't sue a government, but then also repeats that it can't sue a government. Therefore, that's just redundant. A won't be the answer. For answer choice B, in Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court avoided hearing the case by arguing the Cherokee belonged to a domestic dependent and had no legal right to sue, unlike a sovereign nation. We don't know what a domestic dependent is. It could be domestic dependent nation or it could be something else. And that just like removes, like just takes out, that just changes what the original two sentences meant. Therefore, B isn't the answer. C, in Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court avoided a ruling by arguing that Cherokee belonged to a domestic dependent nation, not a sovereign one, which meant that they have no legal right to sue. There's nothing really wrong with this. Therefore, C is a possible answer choice. And for D, in Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the Supreme Court avoided a ruling by arguing that the Cherokee Nation, because they were not a sovereign nation but a domestic dependent nation, had no legal right to sue. So as you can tell, I just made a mistake here. I automatically put in the word had, and it doesn't have the word had, and that in and of itself just tells me that this is wrong when they somehow supplement a word in there that just isn't in the sentence. So with that alone, I would cross this out. And yeah, it's just in a non-grammatically correct sentence, I guess. Any question? I'll give you guys around 10 seconds for questions if you guys have any. If not, I'll move ahead. All right. I'll give you guys a minute to do this one as well. All right, so for this question, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was escorted into Washington, D.C. by an early incarnation of the Secret Service because they perceived credible threats to his life. No change is a good option because there's nothing grammatically incorrect. B, however, in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was escorted into Washington, D.C. by an early incarnation of the Secret Service. However, they had perceived credible threats to his life. So all of this happened as I guess because of this, and however doesn't I guess like show that. However basically means instead of just saying all that happened because of that. So B doesn't work. C, additionally. So again, it doesn't tell us the reason why he was escorted into Washington, D.C. The reason was they had perceived credible threats to his life. Additionally, just takes out the fact that it's because of the credible threats to his life. Therefore, C can't be the answer. And D, despite the credible threats to his life. So again, as I just said it, despite they had perceived credible threats to his life, that's like saying that even though they had credible threats to his life, he was escorted to Washington, D.C., which doesn't make sense. If the sentence was he was not escorted, well, when Abraham Lincoln came to Washington, D.C., he was not escorted by the Secret Service, despite the fact that they perceived credible threats to his life, then Z would have been an answer. However, in this case, it is not. And A is the only answer. Any questions? No? All right. I'll give you guys a minute to do this one as well. All right. So for this question, contrary to popular expectations, most sugar in the United States does not come from sugarcane, but rather sugar beets make up the majority of the crops instead. That looks correct because it says instead of sugarcane, it's sugar beets that gives the majority of sugar. Sugarcane also, that doesn't make sense because you're saying instead of the sugarcane, it's sugar beets that make up the majority. Therefore, B can't be correct. Additionally, that doesn't work either because as I just said for B, you're saying instead of sugarcane, it's sugar beets, and additionally does not imply that. Furthermore, that same reason as C and B, it doesn't imply instead and just says, oh, on top of sugarcane not giving it, sugar beets make up the majority. So that doesn't work either. And therefore, A is our answer. Any questions? No? All right. We'll do one more reading passage. And this time I will do it with you guys, I guess. And yeah. So for the person who asked, wouldn't that also be grammatically incorrect? No. Well, yes, technically it is, I guess, incorrect. However, that is the best option because that just implies it. I guess the other three options don't imply the correct thing. I guess in this case, it's a choice between what's the best versus is it correctly or not. So yeah, on top of, okay, so how is answer B wrong? Cane also rather sugar beets. Okay, so also means on top of, but like what we're trying to say is instead of sugar cane, it's sugar beets that make up the majority. Yes, it would be. It should just be cane, comma rather sugar beets. However, I guess like they mistyped it or something. I don't entirely know why. But it's in this case, it's just a choice of which is the best option. All of these would, if you were to be really technical, wouldn't work because answer choice A, although it fits like this, I guess like the sentiment of it, it is grammatically incorrect. But yeah, it's just a choice of which is the best option. All right, I will do this one with you. And yeah, so fossil tree raisin, commonly known as amber, has the ability to encase and preserve things for extensive periods of time. Researchers in Kaliningrad, Russia, have recently discovered fossilized carnivorous plants for the first time. Encased in a variety of amber commonly found in the Baltic region, leaves from these rare and interesting plants have been preserved for what scientists estimate to be 35 and 48 million years. So carnivorous plants found in amber, found in amber, just carnivorous plants found in amber. Amber is often confused with sap because of its sticky liquid form. It is chemically different, though, and hardens to such an extent that it can immaculately preserve what it encases. As a result, researchers often encounter insects and other animals preserved in amber for long periods of time. Considered as type of fossils, these findings are incredibly useful, as animals found in amber are usually not found anywhere else, found elsewhere in the fossil world record. Plants, on the other hand, are rarely preserved this way. This new discovery, along with amber-encased animals, provides scientists with a more comprehensive view of life in earlier times. So, amber not equal to sap, and is unique in fossil world, I guess. And benefit of amber, benefits of amber. All right. The newly discovered plant fossils are also groundbreaking for two more specific reasons. They're the only fossilized carnivorous plant traps ever found, as well as the only fossilized evidence of the plant family Ridalu. Okay, I don't know how to say that word, and I'm not going to try. The something plant has only been seen in seed form until now. While the seeds did offer scientists valuable information, the trapping mechanism of the plant's leaves was left to conjecture. In these newly discovered fossils, the leaves of the plants are fully intact and contain organic animal matter that has been captured in these leaves' tentacles when the plant was living. So, why fossil important? Why the fossil is important? And yeah, that's all we really need for this paragraph. Geologists and botanists in Germany published these findings in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, noting that the leaves look similar to a genus of carnivorous plants called Rhorodilla, which until now were considered endemic to Africa, where they still thrive. Unlike Venus flytraps, which are known to catch and dissolve insects using a digestive mechanism, all Rhorodilla plants and their newly discovered ancestors absorb nutrients secondhand through a symbiotic relationship with an insect known as peat. The peat insect generates a greasy film, which allows it to live on our leaves without being ensnared in the plant's tentacles. And the insect then captures and digests its prey while still on the leaves of the plant, and then passes nutrients to the plant through its species. This way of ingesting nutrients is the major link between this insect and the R family of plants. So, difference from Venus flytrap and symbiotic relationship. Okay, I'm just gonna read this. Symbiotic relationship with insect. The new fossil discovery in Russia completely challenges the conclusion that scientists had previously drawn about the paleobiography of the species. R was previously thought to originate from the prehistoric pagan supercontinent called Gondwana, which includes modern-day Africa, South America, India, Antarctica, and Australia. However, recent findings suggest that the shared ancestors of these plant species had a much wider distribution. Researchers need to continue to search for plant matter preserved in amber to fill in more of the blanks in the fossil record. So, what this find showed to the world. All right. The primary purpose of this passage is to explain how scientists use new technology to explore old findings. No, it's about how a plant was preserved in amber and how it helped the scientific world. Contrast the differences among different types of fossil tree resin. Nope, only talks about one type, amber. Inform the reader about new plant fossils discovered in amber. That it does do that. Encourage the reader to learn more about the plant fossil record. No, it does not. It doesn't say anywhere that readers should do it. Therefore, C is our answer. 2. Based on the information in the passage, the reader can infer that the author was a part of the research team that discovered in the new fossils. No, you cannot infer that. Considers the discovery of plant fossils in amber scientifically valuable. Yes, the last paragraph is why it's good. Thinks the conclusions drawn by the scientists in Germany are flawed. Nowhere does it imply that, at least. Does not expect scientists to find many more fossils in amber. I mean, I guess you could theoretically think that, but no, it says they will need to, and it doesn't say that he doesn't expect many. So B is our answer. The author claims that animal fossils found in amber are important to scientists because they are immaculately preserved. That's not why. I mean, that is, I guess, a good thing about them. However, that's not what the author claims. Contains remains of life forms not otherwise found in the fossil record. Yes, that is something that was, I guess, mentioned in the passage a bit. Are easier to study than fossils found buried in rock formations. Nowhere does it say that. Nowhere in the passage does it say that. Contain DNA that resembles various types of animals living today. It doesn't talk about that at all either. Therefore, B is our answer. Four. So I remember that being like the first or second paragraph. So we just need to go back and look at whichever one fits our answer, that that contains remains of life forms not otherwise found in the fossil record. So, oh yeah, there. It explicitly states that right here. As animals found in ambers are usually not found anywhere else in the fossil record, and therefore that is our evidence. So 16 to 18. As used in line 13, immaculately most nearly means line 13. Of course, do you guys want me to look at the other lines, I guess, the other answer choices for 4? Just raise your hand or say it in chat that you want me to look at the other 3 answer choices. Right? No? Okay. So line 13. Immaculately most nearly means, so from what I remember, it should be something like it's perfectly contained or something, but we'll see. Line 13, immaculately preserve. Immaculately means like perfectly. It's something like that. Therefore, if we go down, okay, perfectly is an option. Correctly doesn't work there because you don't correctly preserve something. I mean, you do correctly preserve something, but that's the action of preserving it versus how it was preserved. Innocently preserve something doesn't make sense. Purely preserve something also doesn't make sense. Question 6. The author uses the phrase rare and interesting plants to emphasize the importance of discovery of fossilized carnivorous plants. That looks like a good answer. Study of paleontology and geology. Nope. That's not why he talked about the rare and interesting plants. Preservation of the existing fossil record. You don't go and find new plants if you want to preserve the previous plants. That doesn't say that anywhere. The continued exploration in the Baltic region. Nowhere does it nor in the passage does it say that like we have to explore only in the Baltic region versus other places. Therefore, A is our answer. All right, we have what, 5 more questions, and we only have 3 minutes left. Do you guys want me to do a specific question, or you guys just want to wrap this up? And for the person who's asking for the slides, yes, I'll send the slides. 1 second. Oops. Okay. All right. Here's the slides for anyone who didn't get it. But otherwise, do you guys want me to do a specific question? Oh, I don't think I provided you guys the link. Oh, that's unfortunate. You guys should have told me about that. That's the link for it. Just take a quick look in like the minute or 2 left that we have, and just tell me if you guys want me to do a specific question. Other than that, I will wrap class up, and I will stay after for people who still want me to do the rest of the passage. So what you guys need to do before next class, just continue looking at quadratics, and we will be doing radicals and rational exponents, as well as operations with rational exponents and polynomials, polynomial factors and graphs, and nonlinear equations / graphs. And yeah, you guys are free to go. If you guys don't have any questions, I can answer the remaining questions if you guys in the passage if you guys want me to. Other than that, y'all are free. Just raise your hand if you have any questions. For now, I'll just turn in whatever we have to see what we got. And we got them all right. Anyone have any questions or want me to do a specific question in the passage? If you guys want me to do a question, I guess just tell me next class. Other than that, I guess that's it for today.